When I first heard of GLPs, I thought, hey, this is cheating. Like, I'm in here in the gym, I'm grinding, getting up early, doing cardio, eating egg whites and oatmeal every morning. Like, I'm going to do it through hard work. When I actually had the chance to utilize GLP-1s and to see the effect that it's had on literally thousands of people that I've worked with, and again, it's not just throwing a blanket solution, but when used properly, I will say this, we have a 70% obesity rate in this country, right? These are a way to combat that. And there's so many different applications, not just weight loss and fat loss, but things like bringing down inflammation, cognitive benefits, cardioprotective benefits, sleep apnea, like go down the list. And all these new GLP-1s that are coming out are just going to be more and more advanced and more specialized in what they can do. And so personally, there's so many benefits of GLP-1s that I'm almost embarrassed that I was pushing people away from them at the beginning. If it's not the greatest invention of this century, it's going to be one of them.
What is going on, my friends? Welcome back to another episode of the Smart Nutrition Made Simple show. I'm your host, as always, Ben Brown, owner and head coach here at Body Systems. Now, today on the show, I am joined by Jeff Sakamoto. Jeff's a man whose journey through professional sports, bodybuilding, private equity, and real estate has led him to the cutting edge of telemedicine. Jeff is the founder and the CEO of Scripps. It's the company behind the scenes supplying many of the top hormone and peptide and GLP-1 therapies to clinics across the country. If you've seen the explosion of hormone optimization and peptide clinics lately, then chances are Jeff's company is powering many of those products. But what makes Jeff's story so compelling is that for him, it's personal. From nearly losing his health to contaminated peptides to struggling with his testosterone levels in his 30s, Jeff has lived the challenges that so many of us men face. And instead of settling, he built a business that was dedicated and is dedicated to doing it the right way, ensuring quality, safety, and at the end of the day, the most important thing, which is results. In our conversation, we dig into what optimization really means, why not all hormones and peptides are created equal, how to avoid the pitfalls of bad providers, and what the future of men's health looks like with emerging therapies. So whether you're a clinician, a high-performing mom or dad, or just someone who wants to feel and look their best while leading from the front, then this episode is packed with practical wisdom that is going to be right for you. So without further ado, here is Jeff Sakamoto. Jeff Sakamoto, welcome to the Smart Nutrition Made Simple show. What's good, brother?
Ben, thanks for having me. Honored to be here.
Dude, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on. Feel like I've been following you on Instagram for a while. I ran into you months and months back at Allie Gilbert's event and knew you were in kind of the health and hormone optimization space. Truthfully, I didn't exactly know what it was that you did. Are you like bodybuilding or real estate or hormone optimization or what? And so I reached out and was like, dude, we got to talk shop because everything that you're doing resonates with me. And if it resonates with me, it's going to resonate with our audience. And so, yeah, thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep.
As I alluded to, it sounds like you kind of got a lot of stuff going on, or you do a lot of stuff in terms of health and business and all the things that we enjoy talking about. What's your most kind of present venture that you're working on that would potentially be relevant for the audience that I'm speaking to?
About 2 years ago, got into the telemedicine space, and that's, really helping folks with hormone optimization, peptides, GLPs. And so we actually have a company that we formed that is really the supplier for a lot of the large telemedicine companies that you see advertising on TV or, the clinic down the street that's doing hormone optimization. We're the backbone behind that. And so, yeah, to your point, it's been a long, winding road to get here, but it's been fun. And I've done everything from, professional sports to real estate. And honestly, doing what I'm doing today lights me up. I work more than I ever have before, but I love it and just love helping men and women like us, really optimize. And we can do that through our company and helping other clinics.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I want to jump back into, I really do want to understand a little bit more about the backstory and how you got where you are, but just as the topic stands around you guys being the supplier for the telemedicine companies, I mean, this is, we're in a time where this stuff, as I observe it, stuff is exploding. I mean, hormone clinics on every corner. We're talking a lot about peptides now. If you're in the know and you're interested in the quote unquote optimization space, I think it's really, really important for people to understand what that means, what they should be looking for. So I guess as a supplier, or, maybe the other side of the coin, as a consumer, are all hormones created equal? When I go and I'm working with a hormone provider, are there certain things that we should be looking for, or considerations or concerns that people should have around the quality of the products that they're getting or that they're even ordering online?
It's such a great question, Ben. And it's actually the reason why I got into this space, to be honest with you. So I think there's a couple different layers to that. Originally, I got in the space a couple years ago because I have been a professional bodybuilder and fitness athlete. And so I was taking a lot of different things, and
Yeah.
sourcing those from online sources, things like that. Long story short, I ended up in the hospital. It was around Christmas time, and my partner said, "Hey, you're turning pale." And I had had this lump in my glute from where I had been injecting myself. And I'm just being totally honest and candid with you.
Yeah.
And it had put some research peptides into my glute. Next thing I know, it's pretty swollen. End up in the hospital. Long story short, I was about to turn septic. And had I not gone to the hospital, it could have been party over. So
Yikes.
that really was kind of a wake up call. It's like, you know what? I'm not ordering the stuff online anymore. I'm not going to the gray market, black market to source stuff. I don't care how good, people say it is or who's taking it or whatever else. Like, I need to be careful about what I'm putting in my body. And so that inspired me to kind of get into this telemedicine space. I actually stepped onto the board for a large telemedicine clinic, became partners in several. And what I realized in that process, even with clinics, even with these large companies, that level of quality is so different from pharmacy and supplier to another. And so we started a company called Scripts where we only source the highest quality hormones, peptides, GLP-1s, and provide those to clinics around the country so they can feel good about what they're recommending to their patients, because there's a huge spectrum of quality and you got to know what you're injecting in your body. You got to see the testing. You got to know that what you're putting out there and you're putting your name and reputation on, whether you're a trainer or a doctor, is legit.
Yeah. And I imagine, so obviously I'm not a clinician, but I work with a lot of clinicians and refer out to a lot of clinicians. And especially if you're kind of living on the cutting edge of wanting to help clients optimize, and we're playing around with, maybe playing around isn't the right use of the word, right? But we're utilizing GLPs, we're utilizing peptides. These are, certain GLPs are not FDA approved yet. And so as a clinician, these are things that are going to potentially help your clientele, despite the fact that there's not necessarily research on it. But that's, bodybuilding for you. Bodybuilding's eons ahead of medicine and research, right? But the point is, it's like, as a clinician, and I know we do have a number of clinicians that listen to this, but as a clinician, obviously your reputation's at line. You want to know that you're providing the right materials and resources for your clients. And so they should be looking for, products that are third party, like I'm assuming they're third party tested, or are they USA manufactured, or what is sort of like, the stipulations around that?
Yeah, I think there's all different levels to it, right? And so even the research sites online, like they'll provide COAs. They can provide
Yeah.
kind of authenticity and purity and different things. However, again, in that spectrum, there's a wide range. And, I've seen falsified lab reports, things like that. And so we only source our products from legit 503A and 503B pharmacies. We get testing.
Got it.
We make sure it's reconstituted in most cases where, the patient or the end user is not having to, inject backwater and kind of can mess up all the concentrations and things. Like, we need to make sure that it's 100% right and perfect. And it does. It kind of limits some of the products that are available in that sense. But what we're seeing at Scripps and what we provide for our clinics and clinicians is actually a pretty wide range of some of those upcoming peptides. Most recently, I'll give you an example that's becoming a huge seller for us is retatrutide or retatrutide, however you want to,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it, potato.
Yeah.
That is something that obviously is all the news on TikTok,
All the news.
Instagram, and influencers and everything else. It is awesome. It is awesome.
Yes.
But we couldn't offer that because we needed to make sure it was coming from a legit pharmacy. And so we recently got our hands on that. We tested it with one of our pharmacy partners. And so now we're able to offer that through Scripts to clinics around the country, and they're having amazing results. But had I gone premature and I said, hey, let's get it from this research side over here or whatever, we're putting ourselves at risk, and we're just not willing to do that.
Amazing. No, that's great to hear that there's sort of that level of security and testing and of kind of oversight to make people feel better about kind of the quality of the products. And we'll talk more about kind of where people can find like the clinics that you actually work with so that they know they're getting the best quality products. And what's cool is, they're able to get products that they're not necessarily able to get from their general physician or even maybe just a progressive physician. And listen,
Right.
this is the world that we're living in. And if you want to optimize and if you want to be proactive and you want to be on the cutting edge of what is new and not even new, what's working right now, then you kind of have to start to think differently than we typically think.
100%. I love that you use the word optimize. I use it probably 15 times a day. Guys like us, I mean, we want to be optimized. It's not okay just to be, I'm doing all right. Like we want to pursue life. We want to go drive still. And optimization is really the key. And that's what we help these clinics do, is have the tools to be able to help their patients optimize.
I'd love kind of for you to share what that means for you. And then we can kind of even take it back to how you got into this space in the first place. But it's funny, before our conversation, I was working in my office preparing for this, and my wife walked in, and I'd been on a consult earlier in the day with another practitioner who was kind of helping me through some of my protocols and what have you. And I had a couple of products up on the page, and my wife was giving me a hard time. And she's like, are you a biohacker? Like, what's going on with all this? I was like, first of all, don't ever, like, I would never refer to myself as a biohacker in any way, shape, or form. That's the worst. But listen, it's like, dude, I want to look good. I want to feel good. That permeates over into every area of my life. And, it's like we always want to get better. You want to get
Yeah.
better in business. You want to get better in our health and fitness. And that's what it requires. And so for you, like, where did your kind of quote unquote optimization journey begin?
It really kind of goes back. I mean, I was a two-sport athlete in college, and I worked my butt off to get there. Like, I wasn't the most elite athlete. I always had to work, and so that kind of carried over. I mean, I was in the gym pretty much every day since the time I was 16 years old. And so that carried on into my adult life, and even when I was working and building a family and everything else, building a career, I was in the gym all the time. I kind of reached the age in my early 30s where I started to realize, like, okay, I'm carrying too much body fat. Like, I'm not feeling exactly how I want to feel. And so I actually went into my GP, my primary doc, and did some blood work. And we realized that I had the testosterone levels of an 80-year-old man. Here's a guy, successful guy, family, everything else, athlete in the gym. And I was off the charts low. I
Yeah.
didn't do anything about it at the time because HRT and all this stuff wasn't nearly as prevalent as it is today. It was really taboo. And
So is
so,
this like 20 years ago?
oh yeah, this is about 20 years ago now.
Yeah.
Yeah, about 20 years ago. And so I waited a long time. And then finally, by the age of about 38, so about 10 years ago, I finally said, you know what? I need to do something about this. And so I went in, and again, 10 years ago, it's still very different than it was today. Went into a men's clinic and started that journey. It has really taken me until probably about 2 years ago to where I really felt optimized, where I really felt like I had it all figured out. And I really felt the way that I wanted to feel. And a lot of that is because, again, the practitioners that I was seeing really weren't educated. So that was part of it. But part of it was also kind of my own self-discovery and everything else, and realizing, okay, how do I piece this all together? And so that's really what we try to do, is help folks do that. I love that what you're doing, and you're a big piece of that.
I mean, I think that's the only way to do it. Is you just have to kind of start to go down this road and start to explore for yourself and test the waters and start to see how you feel. And then obviously use objective data to track, progress. And obviously as that correlates to, we say, subjective metrics. So it's like, okay, blood work looks good, but I still feel like shit. Okay,
Yep.
fine. Or, blood work looks good and I'm starting to feel better, and now I'm sleeping better and I have more energy and I have better libido and I can think clearly and I have more, drive, and like I want to tackle the day. And okay, cool. Things are definitely improving here. And then how do we kind of piecemeal this stuff together relative to where we are in life and the seasons that we naturally go through? I think it's just common with our kind of a pill for every ill culture,
Yep.
right? That guys want to step into this and they're like, just give me the plan, right? Just give me the comprehensive blood work and just give me the list of things that I need to take. And, that's going to do it. And unfortunately, it hasn't been my observation that that's the solution. It's certainly a step in the right direction, right?
Yep.
But with all the influencers promoting their kind of their optimization programs or biohacking programs or whatever you want to call it with this, all the labs and everything like that. It's just so much more nuanced than that.
Yes. It's like a stool, right? There's different pieces to make it all work, right? Like that's certainly a piece of it, but until you've got the different legs of the stool, the lifestyle, the diet, the nutrition, the training, the sleep is huge. And then if there's additional areas that we need to supplement via some of the new medications and opportunities out there today, then that's great. But it's a journey, it's a process. And to your point, like the legs of the stool have to be working together.
Yeah. And underline all of this, of course. And I say this every single episode with everyone I'm talking about. It's like, listen, underline everything. Like, you're a gym rat at heart. So am I. And you got to learn to love kind of the fundamental principles and identify with those. I'm just someone who loves to eat healthy food and loves to train and loves to move consistently. And that's just how I live my life. Now we can compound on top of that everything else.
I love that. It's about changing your identity and how you think and how you process, right? And so it is a journey. And what I found to be cool is not just when I started this journey did I start to look better and feel better, but I started to see business increase and doing more deals and different things like that. So it's not just about having a six pack. It's about like, how do I show up as a better dad? How do I show up as a better partner? And when you have all these pieces, to me, that's optimization. Optimization is not just having a six pack and having energy. It's like, does this enable me to really live the life I want and create that identity of who I want to be?
Yeah. When you started to go down the road of testosterone optimization, how quickly did that lead into, feeling better? How did it influence the quality of life that you were living? And what was the progression into utilization of other things, other peptides,
Yeah.
if you will?
Yeah. So again, the first couple of years that I was on TRT, it was fine. Like I felt a little bit better, but not much. Like I still wasn't incorporating all the other pieces of my lifestyle that needed to make those changes. And so people think if
Give me an example. Sorry to interrupt, but like,
yeah,
what was going on with business? What was going on with stress levels? Like, I think this is an important point because just band-aiding with TRT when we're, grinding at the office and everything like that isn't necessarily going to make that big of a difference.
you nailed it. So again, at the time, I'm 38 years old. I was going through a divorce, so that adds to my stress.
Yeah.
At that point, I was a real estate developer, doing multi-$100 million deals, huge. I was also working for the Seattle Mariners as a full-time professional scout. So I'm traveling all the time. I'm working 75, 80 hours a week, traveling every weekend, which isn't great for a relationship, by the way. That's part of the issue. But, you want to talk about like managing everything else, like stress management, sleep, all of these things. Like you have to, in order to optimize and get the results you want, you got to put the other pieces in place. And so I started to peel back some things. Like I decided, okay, I can't continue to work in two full-time professions as much as it's cool and everything else. Like I can't do that. As I approached the age of 40, I said, okay, I'm not working two jobs anymore. I'm not doing that. I have some more time because I'm single. I think I'm going to pursue this bodybuilding thing. Like I'm going to hop on stage. And so that led to a journey of really getting my diet dialed in, really getting training and cardio and sleep, all those things you need to do to show up on stage.
Yeah.
And so I started to kind of put this together. And again, over that time through trial and error and different coaches and working with some of the top coaches in the world, I was able to kind of learn what I needed to do to make my body sing and work the way I wanted it to. And again, it's been a journey. That was 8 years ago that I started this. And it wasn't until I really stopped competing about 2 years ago that I really felt like, okay, I can manage my life. I can manage my diet, nutrition, and hormones and things like that where I feel good. I walk around at single digit body fat. I feel strong. I feel vibrant. I've got good sex drive. I'm not in the gym 3 hours a day. I'm 40 minutes, get in, get out, things like that. I go for walks and get some sunshine. Like it's about finding that perfect optimal balance.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, you kind of went from one end of the spectrum to another end of the spectrum in terms of like cranking in business and then settling down and then cranking in the gym.
Yeah.
What do you think is sort of kind of some of the common misconceptions that guys have around what the requisites to changing their health, changing their body composition, quote unquote, optimizing when it comes to kind of going down this road?
One thing I see, and it was very common with me, is that it's really hard to get into the shape that you want if you're not sleeping right. And also if you're eating out all the time, it's really hard. And so like, business guys, right? Which I assume is a lot of your audience, guys and gals. Like we got business dinners, we got, things that come up. We got family, we want to take the kids out to eat. in order for me to stay lean and strong and everything that I want, I realized I got to pick my spots. And yeah, I want to go and on a Friday night, if I want to go enjoy a dinner out with my friends or, enjoy a pizza or something like that, I do that. But in the meantime, like the rest of the time, I'm like, I've got this pretty well dialed. So it's like that 80-20 rule where you're like, hey, I can still go and enjoy life and I can do everything else, but I got to pick my spots. I can't just be eating out every single day and expect to look the way that I want to, especially as you get to 30 and beyond. Like that ship has sailed for me anyways. Like I was a fat kid, so I don't have that margin of error that some people do.
Honestly, I mean, I don't see any guys over, you know, 40 that care about their physique and health that have that margin. Frankly, it comes back to bite you at some point.
Yeah.
And it's often that I'm having these conversations with guys of like, we need to kind of prioritize things appropriately here, because you hit the nail on the head with like, people don't realize the impact that eating out plays in terms of the food quality, the amount of fat that you're getting, and therefore the amount of calories that you simply just do not realize that you're taking in. And then when you compound that over multiple days per week, week over week, coupled with business travel, coupled with lack of sleep, coupled with, God forbid, hormone imbalances. And, that's why we are where we are. And
100%, 100%. I mean, to illustrate that, I mean, my partner, she's Australian and it's different down in Australia. The food quality is very different, et cetera. And so when she comes to visit, she just expects that right away, even eating our food that is store-bought, she's going to put on about 10 pounds right away. Like it's water, it's inflammation, things like that. But it just shows and it illustrates that the foods that we have and eating out and things like that here are just, it's really hard if you want to be optimal to be able to do that. And the other thing that I would mention too is alcohol. And, look, I like to go out and have a glass of wine or as much as the next guy, but I have some good friends that are really successful and they like to go and have some drinks on the weekend. And they ask me, they're like, Jeff, like I'm working out twice a day. I watch what I eat. I'm not getting the six pack, like what's going on? And it's like, bro, like, unfortunately, if you're going to drink on the weekends and everything else, it's going to be hard. It's not that you can't do it. Like I want you to have balance, but again, you got to kind of pick your spots.
I couldn't have said it better myself. And it's, what it is logically it makes sense for us, but it's hard for us to kind of rationalize. We rationalize things the way that we want relative to the things that we want to prioritize in our life.
Yes.
Right? If we really want that watch, if we really want to kind of, go out to eat, if we really want to do that thing, we're going to rationalize doing it. And for what I've observed is for guys, this has so much to do with their alcohol intake. And it's like, well, I'm entertaining or I'm blowing off some steam over the weekend and I worked hard during the weekend. It's like, dude, you do you. That's fine. Like there's no judgment on my end. But if you're not getting where you want to go relative to what you hired me to help you do, we got to have that honest conversation of like how this is the limiting factor, the low hanging fruit right here. And you got to acknowledge like, how bad do you want it? And is the juice worth the squeeze for you?
Exactly. I tell folks this all the time. It's like, okay, if you set your goal, right, and you know exactly what you want, the way you get there is to, as you move through life, it's to make decisions. And am I getting closer to my goal or getting further away? And so it's like, okay, if I want to have a drink, am I getting closer to my goal or further away? It's what I choose to eat. It's whether I choose to get a workout in, whether it's I choose to bed or watch that Netflix series again. All those things, these micro decisions add up and play an impact on how quickly am I going to accomplish my goal and am I actually going to get there, right? It comes down to these micro decisions, right? Everything as I move through life and as I move around my day, it comes to, am I getting closer to my goal or further away? And does this decision, does this drink get me closer or further away? Does this meal get me closer or further away? And I think when you look at it that way, it allows you to really break down your goals and keep you in line, right?
It does. And the more you make those decisions, the easier it becomes to make those decisions because those decisions are aligned with how you want to feel.
Yes.
Too. And so I know at this point, and listen, this is coming from someone who drank a lot for a very long time. In fact, I often say it's like up until I was, I'm 46 now, up until I was probably 40, between the ages of probably 18 and 40, there were probably more days a week where I had alcohol than I didn't have alcohol.
Yeah.
Just truthfully speaking. And so for me, it took a really long time to get rid of that kind of narrative in my head around it's something I deserve. I earned it. It allows me to kind of de-stress. It's unwind over the weekend. I love the scotch or the whiskey or a good glass of wine or beers with the boys or whatever it is. And it's really become something, like you said, identity earlier, of like, I just love waking up and feeling good in the morning and going and getting an exercise before the kids get up, and the way I can think more clearly and how I can be then more productive. And then it builds to the level of relationships and the type of people like you that I surround myself with, which uplifts me even more. And so it's just this feed forward cycle.
Totally agree. I compare it to like a ripple, right? If you drop a pebble in some water, it's not just that decision, but it's the ripple effects that go beyond that. And so whether it's choosing not to drink anymore or choosing to eat properly, like that one decision has ripple effects throughout our entire life in business and relationships and everything else.
What's so empowering is like the more guys give themselves permission, and women give themselves permission to interact in their daily life in ways that doesn't involve alcohol. Again, the more empowering it becomes, the more confidence they build around it, the more security, to the degree that it's like it becomes easy for them to acknowledge and own, right? Just own the identity of, I'm just not someone that is deciding to drink right now. Or I'm just not someone that even likes alcohol that much, or like I don't need it to quote unquote be successful, or to like nurture these relationships, on and on and on, right?
Exactly.
Jeff, so we talked alcohol, we talked kind of eating out. Let's just touch on kind of the training element. I think there's sort of a bit of misconception potentially around, especially with guys who they know they need to work out. They're not really sure like what they need to do. I think a lot of guys rely on perhaps what they did in high school or in their 20s, or what they used to do with like football practice. And so what do you think is important for kind of middle-aged guys and even women to know about strength training, and kind of how impactful it can be relative to this optimization process?
Well, I think it's huge. I think the first step is to hire somebody like yourself who can really teach them, the right way to do it, that set them on the right track for their goals. To your point, I spun my wheels for 20 years training like I did in high school, lifting heavy. I could throw a lot of weight around, I could push a lot of weight, but I felt myself like all of a sudden my joints are hurting and everything else. And it's like, and I wasn't looking the way that I wanted to. It wasn't until I started kind of preparing for competitions and realizing like, I don't need to train that way. It's not
Yeah.
getting me closer to my goal. I'll tell you today, like I'm stronger. I look better than I ever have before at the age of 48. And I lift less weight than I did when I
Yeah.
was in preschool, right? It's all about mind muscle connection, really
Yes.
feeling the muscle, all of those things that how I train today. It's not about pushing a lot of weight, deadlift, squat, like that's fine if that's what you want to do. But like, I don't do that stuff.
Yes. Thank you. I couldn't agree more. I met a buddy at the gym this morning. We were talking about where we train, and we were talking about the gym, and I met a buddy over at the gym this morning. And I love this gym because it's kind of a meathead gym. It's all great, like bodybuilding equipment and machines and isolation machines. And like you said, dude, I'm 46. I played competitive rugby for a really long time. My knees
Nice.
are jacked. My back is jacked. There's nothing that's less appealing than getting into a squat rack and trying to bang out,
You're
heavy
right.
squats at this point in my life. And I think that common misconception is that you got to go in and you got to crank squats and deadlifts, or you need to be doing some like barf inducing workouts that involve like burpees and freaking jumping over stuff and running around like a lunatic. It's like, dude, we went in the gym. We were just talking shop. We did a couple push, a couple pull. We did kneeling hamstring. We did a pendulum squat, finished with some arms. Heart rate never got, too high, talking shop. And we're out of there, got a good pump and on with our day. And he was kind of like surprised. He's like, I felt like you would do more than what you did. It's like, it's not about doing more. It's about getting the stimulus that your body needs. We don't need to get crazy with quote unquote like functional exercises or be doing lunatic stuff. We're trying to create adaptation. And there's certain stimulus that creates adaptation. It doesn't have to be wild. You can do it with machines, you can do it with free weights. And that's the name of the game. And I just wish more people would understand that about the importance and power that comes from strength training.
I love that so much. And you nailed it. Like in my late 20s, I was doing CrossFit. CrossFit was there and I was
Mhm.
thrown up and, getting hurt, doing all this crazy stuff. And I go from CrossFit to MMA and, do 2 hours on the mat, things like that. Right. And it's just like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm an athlete. I want to get in great shape. But again, I didn't ever look and feel the way I wanted to. And it wasn't until I started this journey and started working with some of the guys that are truly the top coaches, like they're training Mr. Olympia and having the opportunity to work out with some guys that have won the Olympia, these guys that are on stage, guys and gals, they don't train like that. Like some of them say they do in magazines, but when you actually work out with them, it's just like you said, like they're trying to feel the muscle, they're trying to grow, they're not trying to make themselves throw up. They're like, hey, how do I stay healthy and make this muscle provide some stimulus, but not annihilate myself, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's live to lift another day. It's like,
Exactly.
can I do just a little bit more than I did last time? Can we feel it? What's the level of intent? Are we pushing to some level of technical failure? It's like, dude, there's a science around this for a reason. So if you're in the gym and you're doing F45 or whatever, and you're jumping around doing silly stuff and you're not seeing body composition improvements, then, maybe we need to have a conversation. Dude, I want to talk about peptides. Let's start basic because it is, everyone's heard the term peptides. I don't know that a lot of people know what peptides are. So maybe we could just like break it down, like what are peptides and how do we use them?
Yeah. Effectively, peptide is super simple, right? It's really, they're amino acid chains. They're small molecules that tell your body, it signals to your body to do something that's already doing. And so it's not injecting exogenous hormones or anything else in your body. These are small molecules, amino acids that tell your body to do something that it should do. And it just promotes that. And so that's why I love peptides so much, is it's really a natural way of telling your body, okay, we need to ramp up our growth hormone production, or we need to fire this piece up. And what I love about it is in most cases, there's very few side effects. With a couple of the peptides, you got to monitor and make sure there's no contraindications. But what I love about them is you're not telling your body not to produce something, or if you get on this, you're stuck on it for life. You're just helping your body produce what it already wants to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said, just kind of signaling molecules to say, hey, we want to improve our body's growth hormone production. We want to help drive more anti-inflammation or the body's natural inflammatory response around, specific joints. We
Yep.
want to drive better cognitive function. We want to drive better immune system function. Maybe it's better vascular health or gut health or something like that. Now, who should consider using peptides?
Huh. You're asking me. I don't know if there's a bigger fan of peptides in the country.
You obviously have a vested interest here,
I'm a little biased, but honestly,
it's a bit of a biased question. Yes,
I'll say this though, Ben. Like at first I thought peptides were trash. I really did. Like when I first started using peptides, I was buying online
How
sources.
long ago was this?
This is going back probably about 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah,
probably 8 years ago. And what I found is, a lot of the stuff that I was ordering online, like I wasn't getting any good results at all. And part of that is probably the authenticity and the actual quality of the product. But I just didn't see the results that I was getting when I was taking Anavar as an example, right? Like, it's like, hey, I'm not going to mess with these peptides. They're expensive. I'd rather stick with the real stuff that I know I'm going to get results. But I actually love peptides now. What it's done for me is made me look and feel the way that I've always wanted to. So when you talk about optimization, you can use these peptides to bring up certain things, whether it's anti-aging or energy or recovery, all of these things. And they all serve a very purposeful purpose, for lack of a better term, right? There's a peptide almost for anything. And so that's what I love about it is you can treat different things with different peptides. And we're learning more and more every day. So it's so exciting.
Yes, is so fascinating. The wave of the future and the rate at which I think, the science and the utilization and the use is going to take hold, I think is just going to be like a rocket ship. I'm sure, you would certainly hope that that's the case, but I don't see any reason why it wouldn't. So when individuals are considering, okay, like that sounds awesome. Like I want to have more energy. I want to be leaner. I want to, I don't want my joints to hurt as much. Like maybe peptides are for me. What's the consideration? And I guess also, I'm going to break this up into, I guess, two parts because I think that there's a lot of guys and women included who are looking at sort of hormone optimization. And then they're also looking at peptide use. Now, where would you think that the priority should be with those two?
Yeah. Well, again, it's like a stool, right? They work well together. But what I would tell you is if I could advise anybody, it's go see a clinician that is actually experienced in this. It's one thing to try to treat ourselves, but it's another thing to get all the pieces working together. It's, going and getting the blood work done to see, okay, where are my hormones? Your hormones might be perfect, right? But we might have inflammation in your body that we need to pull down, and we can utilize some of the peptides to do that. And so it's so customized. And really, that's why you don't self-diagnose, you don't self-treat. You want to work with
100%.
clinicians that, one, know what they're doing, but two, can get high quality product. You're not self-diagnosing and ordering stuff online. Like, that's what I did to start. And that's why I ended up in the hospital, for lack of a better term. You want to do this right.
Obviously, you want to work with a trained clinician around this stuff. My experience is that, and that's why I asked the question from your perspective, is simply there's such a range of input around who. So if we're talking about guys who potentially need testosterone replacement or testosterone optimization therapy, right? There's practitioners who will say, no, your levels are good, when maybe we could agree that they're not actually optimal, but you could utilize peptides for XYZ. What would you say to, I think you understand what I'm saying
Yeah,
around
of
just
course.
the level of the clinician, and just the gray areas that we perceive to be what is actually kind of optimal levels of testosterone. And then similarly is like, who can benefit from the peptides, and especially when there's profit to be made from it.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is where, again, I think anybody can hang up a shingle and say they do HRT or whatever else, peptide therapy. A lot of folks that come to us have been working with like their GP, and, my testosterone's 400. And so I'm in range. My GP says I'm normal, but the reality is, like, you're not optimal. And so again, when I first started working with an HRT clinic, we got it up to about 600, my testosterone, my total test to about 600. And I still wasn't feeling the way that I wanted to. Candidly, and I'll just perfectly honest with you, I keep my testosterone between 1,000 and 1,200 today. And that's where I feel good. That's
Yeah.
for me optimal. And it's technically off the charts of normal range, but candidly, when I was 600 and right in the middle, I was still having the symptoms of low testosterone. And so it's really important that you see a clinician and work with a practice that treats the symptoms, not necessarily the levels, right? I think that's so
Yeah.
important. And there's some good ones out there. There's some good clinics out there that will do that. And again, if people want to reach out to me, I'm happy to steer them to those places, or yourself. But I think it's just really important. We're not boilerplating this. We're trying to help people optimize, and everybody's different. Somebody might feel great at 600. I personally need
Yes.
to operate at a much higher level in order to feel the way that I want to.
Yes. I'm really glad you mentioned that. And I'm in agreement. I had an old buddy just message me before our call through Instagram, because I recently posted something on testosterone and kind of like beer belly and how visceral body fat impacts our, aromatization and the conversion of testosterone to estrogen. But he messaged me because we had a conversation years back, and he's like, dude, my general practitioner, he says my numbers are normal. His total was quote unquote normal. His free was absolutely in the gutter. And he's like, I don't really know what to do. I was like, well, what are your symptoms? And I listed off like, lethargy, low libido, brain fog, hard time losing body fat, joints, aches and pains, low drive. He's like, actually all of that. Right. And this is so many guys. And so I think that really does lend itself to like, dude, it's okay just because, and I say this with massive respect to Western medicine and what doctors do, but at the end of the day, they don't have the time or energy to actually learn what our best practices around something like testosterone optimization.
Well, and Ben, what's crazy about that is, to your point, what really matters is free testosterone. Everybody
Right.
talks about their total testosterone levels, and that's fine. Like, that's the scorecard. But the reality is, most of these clinics aren't even testing free. And that's
Right.
really what matters. Everything else is bound up. Your body can't use it. And so you might have total testosterone levels in range, but your free, to your point, is in the gutter. Like, your body's not using it. Your body can't recognize the testosterone. So it's really
That's right.
important that you have, again, clinicians that know how to do it.
And that's why you have to be proactive. It's like, dude, it's just not good enough. And, so you have to go out of your way to start to explore and like have a conversation with me, have a conversation with Jeff of like, what are the next steps, and help us refer you to an appropriate clinician. That's who I try and surround myself with, because these are the conversations I have every single day with guys in my community, so that they can look better and feel better. And listen, we're doing everything we possibly can to lay the groundwork here with the optimal nutrition and training and lifestyle and sleep management and stress management. But if we're trying to be our best, it's not good enough, especially if you're suffering from less than optimal levels of hormones. And so I guess we can kind of wrap up that area of just saying, you owe it to yourself to and find a clinician to have a conversation with, of someone who's actually going to look deeper into the weeds of what's potentially going on, and not accept the fact that your quote unquote normal, i.e. Homer Simpson levels of labs, you know, something needs to be addressed.
Yeah. And you touched on something really quick that I'd love to touch on before we tie a bow on this one. But I was talking with Jay Campbell, who's a big,
I know Jay well. Yeah.
Yeah. And, one of the things that we talked about was that so many clinicians even will throw testosterone at somebody to kind of, fix the problem, right? The issue is, if a man or woman is overweight, your body's not going to respond to that necessarily as well, right? Your body's going to aromatize. And there's already so much inflammation in your body that oftentimes what we see, the best practice is, let's get the other pieces under control. Let's bring down your body fat. Let's get on a good plan. Then when you put testosterone in it, it supercharges it versus let's throw testosterone at it, get in shape, and then we got to take an AI to combat the estrogenic effects, all these things. So it's really important that folks work with folks like yourself, get their lifestyle in check, and then we can, kind of work together to figure out the problem. That's why optimization is a journey.
100%, man. And we've kind of glorified this idea of testosterone replacement, but it's just like such a tiny little cog in this massive wheel of optimization. And it's honestly like, what comes first? Do we really, push to drive fat loss first, so that when you do go on TRT, you can utilize it more effectively? Or is it like, maybe we need to introduce the TRT with your clinician first to give you the drive and the motivation and, the headspace to want to be able to get to the gym and do it consistently, so that you can lose the weight, right? To make those improvements. And there's no right way, is simply just kind of acknowledging where you are. And then again, being objective and subjective around your symptoms of like, if and how are things improving.
Totally agree. Couldn't agree more.
GLP-1s, everyone knows what GLP-1s are, and are being massively utilized, maybe massively overutilized, maybe massively underutilized. GLP-1s are peptides.
Yep.
Right? I think it's important to make that distinction. Like, I don't know, where's your head at on GLPs? It's a massively generalized question, but we can just start there.
Well, let's put it this way. When I first heard of GLPs, I thought it was cheating. I thought, hey, this is cheating. Like, I'm in here in the gym, I'm grinding, I'm getting up early, I'm doing cardio, I'm eating egg whites and oatmeal every morning. Like, I'm going to do it through hard work. When I actually had the chance to utilize GLP-1s and to see the effect that it's had on literally thousands of people that I've worked with, there's not a bigger fan than GLPs than me. And again, it's not just throwing a blanket solution at somebody, but when used properly, I will say this: if it's not the greatest invention of the century, it's going to be one of them. You could argue AI and some of these other things. We have a 70% obesity rate in this country, right? These are a way to combat that. And there's so many different applications and uses of it, not just weight loss and fat loss, but things like bringing down inflammation, cognitive benefits, cardioprotective benefits, sleep apnea. Like, go down the list, and all these new GLP-1s that are coming out are just going to be more and more advanced and more specialized in what they can do. And so personally, I can tell you that I use them not year round, but through cycles throughout the year where I microdose it. And it's not that I'm trying to lose weight. I'm certainly not, but it helps me to regulate my inflammation. In certain instances, it reduces food noise, things like that. I think there's so many benefits of GLP-1s that I'm almost embarrassed that I was pushing people away from them at the beginning.
Well, I don't think that's an unreasonable perspective to take, especially when you're someone who's been so rooted in health and fitness. And I can't say that I had a different perspective either. I mean, there initially was like, yeah, that's only for people with diabetes or, massive weight issues, but we're really seeing the complexities and nuances of how they can be effectively utilized. And I'm in agreement around, it's like saying using Chat GPT is cheating. It's like, dude,
exactly. That's exactly right. That's a great analogy.
It's like, why the hell wouldn't you use Chat GPT? Right?
100%.
It's like so much more advanced. And you say, it's like saying, no, we should go back to using like the quill pen and parchment paper, because that's like, that's just how it originally started. It's like, dude, that's ridiculous. Right. And I've been thinking about that a lot lately, because like you said, American food, culture, environmental toxicity, stress levels, all of the things that we're being bombarded with, I don't think we're in a position anymore to be able to use the rationale of sort of this like au natural rationale, right? You know what I mean? It's like,
Yep.
I just need to live in the woods and get back to nature and like live on a sustainable farm and eat, locally sourced food. Like it's just not good enough.
Yeah. I love that analogy with Chat GPT. I think that's right on, by the way. But I look at my mom as an example. My mom is, she's in her 70s. She's battled some excess weight her entire life. And she's tried the crash diets. She's tried to go and do these cardio binges and things like that. When we put her on tirzepatide, and over about 6 months, she was able to shed about 40 pounds. She's now at about 50 pounds through lifestyle changes, et cetera. I could never get her in the gym. Like she would go on these cardio binges and everything else. But now that she's lost the weight, she's in the gym strength training. It's like,
Amazing.
amen. Like, this is what I've been trying to get you to do. But it wasn't until she started to build the momentum through the use of GLP-1s to see success, to feel comfortable enough to get into the gym, that she was actually able to do that. And so I love them. I think they're great. Again, you need to work with a clinician that knows what they're doing and can help you navigate that. But I think they're so powerful. And there's new ones coming out. I'll tell you, retatrutide, we talked a little bit about it.
Yep.
It's pretty exciting. So yeah, a lot coming.
Is there anything new outside of retatrutide? I've been reading and hearing a ton about that. That sounds just significantly better than the semaglutide or tirzepatide in a myriad of ways around sort of metabolic benefits beyond just the delayed gastric emptying and, just the better insulin management. We get the glucagon response, and then just again with like maybe a cardioprotective element, improve, better fat utilization. What else?
Well, I mean, there's so many benefits, but one thing I think with retatrutide versus like Gen 1 of semaglutide is folks didn't want to eat on semaglutide. Like it turned the hunger stimulus completely off. And so in many cases, people effectively lost muscle, right? Because they just weren't eating enough protein. With retatrutide, I'm microdosing it right now. I still have that desire to eat. And so what I'm able to do at this point is continue to manage the inflammation, bring that down. I don't have the brain fog anymore. That's gone. The afternoon slump is over, right? And so I'm able to be more functional in how I go about my day, but I'm also able to maintain muscle mass. Like, I'm putting on muscle in taking a GLP-1 with retatrutide versus with semaglutide. Like, I noticed, like, I just didn't want to eat. Like, I'm trying to pound protein and everything else. I just didn't want to. So there's so much coming down the road and things coming, myostatin inhibitors, things like that we don't even know what's coming. But I'll tell you, just the advances that are coming today are pretty exciting.
That's incredible. I'm excited for it. I want to touch really briefly on just you mentioned microdosing a couple times, just so people are understanding what does that mean relative to what the conventional wisdom or perhaps what general physicians are prescribing in terms of the GLPs.
Yeah. So with GLPs, traditionally, it's a weight loss protocol or a titration, right? And so they start low, and then over time, it's just like taking anything else. You kind of build and take more and more month by month or week by week, and that continues to promote the weight loss, right? And so you try to always use the least amount to get the most benefit. And so you start slow and you titrate up to eventually you're up to a pretty significant dose over a period of 6 to 8 months. With microdosing, you don't do that. You just take a very small amount. You might do it instead of just once weekly, you might do it 2 or 3 times a week to kind of keep that small amounts through your body. And really what that does is you have the benefits of the GLP-1 or the medication, but you're not pushing it. And so you get the anti-inflammation, you get the reduction of food noise, the cognitive benefits, things like that. And it also helps you kind of regulate, keeps your metabolism firing properly without having to push and lose weight. I'm not trying to lose weight, so I don't need to push that titration up. And it just allows you to reap the benefits without any of the side effects or anything else.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm hearing is just if you can get some of that improved kind of metabolic benefit, if you can kind of reduce some of that food noise, which helps you better manage your appetite, right? I mean, that's huge for anyone. And also is the impacts on basically like some of the dopamine drive around maybe the desire to have alcohol, the desire to gamble, right? Like the desire to eat more sugar at night, like all of that kind of stuff. We can dampen that stuff. Like, isn't that beneficial?
It's huge. I mean, honestly, like, they're seeing benefits of this with cessation of smoking, things like that. I mean, there's just so many benefits. And like, as an example for me, like, one thing I love here in Arizona is Lou Malnati's pizza. I love a deep dish pizza, but when I'm doing the microdosing of the GLP-1s, like that desire is completely gone. And when I do it, I'm not feeling like I really want to eat half a pizza or a full pizza. I'm fine with one or two slices, calling it a day, and I'm good, and that allows me to continue on and feel great the next day and, not have the cardio confessional the next day, kind of thing. Right. So
That's funny you mentioned that. I now in my mind's locked into maybe some Trevor's pizza for tonight. I'm definitely in need of like a refeed today. It's been
yeah,
a
exactly.
long, hard, low calorie week. So
Yep.
I'm gonna rack up some calories and some retribution cardio tomorrow.
There you go.
Talk to us about some of the like what's your favorite, because I know there's hundreds of peptides. So let's just touch on it briefly and then I want to wrap it up. But like, okay, what are the non-negotiable peptides if someone's considering getting started?
Yeah, well, the most popular out there, well, GLP-1s are peptides, just as we
Fair
covered.
enough. Yes.
Those are extremely popular, super effective, probably the most effective peptides out there. One of the most popular peptides, and it's probably the top seller out there today, is BPC 157. Anti-inflammation, promotes soft tissue healing. We see surgeons recommending it post healing. We've got professional athletes, taking it, former professional athletes. It is truly a game changer as far as being able to get back in the gym, to reduce those chronic injuries, to recover faster. A good friend of mine has been battling shoulder issues for 10 years to the point where he couldn't carry his infant daughter because his shoulder was so bad. We got him on BPC, a combination of BPC and TB, the Wolverine stack. He's in the gym, he's carrying his daughters, he's golfing, all those things that he's wanted to do for 10 years. That's the kind of stuff that I love. It's not just taking a peptide. It's like, what does this do for my life? And so I'll tell you the BPC 157 TB stack, they call it the Wolverine blend because it promotes that healing. That's super popular. The GH peptides, the testosterone, the ipamorelin, CJC, like those are very popular. I'll tell you the one that I really like. It's kind of I tell my good friends, my weight training buddies, my favorite's IGF-1 LR3. I love it. I think it's so powerful. I know some of the big bodybuilders and influencers out there that I'm not going to name any names. It's also become their favorite after talking to them. They're like, Jeff, this is incredible. The muscle size that they're gaining on it, the pumps that they're getting, just the overall boost that they feel. And it's something that you don't take all year round. It's something that you use in small cycles. But if you want
what are we talking, like 12-week cycles or
6 to 12 week cycles? Yep. And you can do it subcutaneously in your belly to have overall effects. Or I'll tell you what I do. And again, this is just being perfectly candid. If I'm trying to bring up a lagging body part and I'm trying to bring up my chest, I'm going to inject a little IGF into each pec, about 30 minutes pre-workout, and I will get the best pump, the best training that I've ever got utilizing it. And I'll tell you, there's some guys that you see on Instagram that are very popular today that are doing the exact same thing. And I'll tell you, I've been able to bring some lagging body parts up because of it. So I'm a huge fan.
Amazing. Anything else? I'm just kind of thinking about with my somewhat limited knowledge of peptides, but I think you hit on the ones that are obviously pretty popular that I'm aware of.
I would tell you, because I know your audience isn't just bodybuilders, like it's housewives, everything else, right? And so one that is extremely popular, but for both men and women, is GHK-Cu, copper peptide.
Yeah, so that's like skin,
anti-aging, inflammation, all of those things, like skin tightening. So people that have lost weight on GLP-1s have some loose skin. A lot of our clinicians are prescribing GHK-Cu as a way to tighten that up, to boost collagen and tighten that skin up. So it can be used to bring down inflammation. So it can be used as a combination with BPC and TB as, kind of that Wolverine stack. They call it the glow stack or close stack, but it can also be used in creams to bring down wrinkles and things like that. I'm actually using it right now because my partner told me I'm looking old. So I just started using the skin creams. People are using it for hair loss as kind of an alternative to finasteride and some of the more harsh hair loss products. So that's a big one. That's a real big one.
I could definitely use some of that. So we'll talk, we'll talk after about that. Yeah. Amazing, man. This has been such a fun conversation, and we're definitely going to have you back and do this again. And then we need to get a bro sesh in the gym for sure.
Love it.
Jeff, where can people find out more about you?
I would encourage folks to reach out to me on Instagram, Jeff.Sakamoto. That's there, pretty active on it. And we have a company called Scripts. If you're a practitioner or a clinician that, wants to find better products, whether it's GLP-1s, hormone products, peptides, we only work with the highest quality pharmacies out there. We've screened it all out. We know the good ones, the bad ones. And not only that, but we're able to, because of the volume that we do, we're able to get amazing pricing at that. So we honestly have better pricing from these pharmacies than some of the big boy telemedicine companies that you see advertising on the Super Bowl. And so we bring that to the small practitioners, a competitive advantage where they can compete with these large telemedicine companies. So script.co. Yep.
And I think more importantly than that, because we probably have more general population listeners, if you're someone who's considering being more proactive and getting more proactive about your health and getting a deep dive into your blood work and your hormones, and maybe considering utilizing peptides if it makes sense in conversation with your clinician, and really just wanting to look better, feel better, and, obviously set a better example for your kids, which we all want to do, and the people that rely on you the most, can people reach out to you to find a qualified clinician?
Great question. 1,000%. So the great thing about working with hundreds of practices around the country is I know the good ones and I know the bad ones. And so if you reach out to me and you DM me or message me, I'll steer you right. I'll make sure that you get in good hands and you're not just going to the general practitioner down the street who may not know what they're doing. Right. So feel free, reach out. That's what I'm here for, man. Like at this point, it's about giving back and helping people.
Amazing. Dude, such a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on. All of you listening, appreciate you guys. And don't hesitate to hit me up if you have any questions or concerns whatsoever, want to find out more about how we can help you, nutrition, energy, weight loss, you name it. That's what we're here for. Appreciate you, Jeff. We'll catch you soon.
It's been a pleasure.